This is Healthy Souls with Father Nicholas Lowe, helping you to live a Christ-filled life in today's world.
Well,
Father Nicholas is the pastor of St. John Divine Greek Orthodox Church in Jacksonville, Florida.
We spent quite a bit of time working on this particular sermon series. And I want you to know that this sermon series is different in so many ways, not only because of the content that we're going to be talking about, but that it builds upon week after week. So it's not an individual type sermon where you can just simply come one Sunday and then kind of just miss the others. It actually builds upon the rest. And so it's so important that you're with us here the next several weeks as we share this sermon series. And it's entitled, Getting Ready. And getting ready for what, Father Nick? Well, getting ready for the second coming of Christ. You know, I was always taught at the seminary that when you're giving a sermon, you should hold the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. If you happen to open up the newspaper over the last several weeks, this is what you've been seeing and hearing. You've heard about hurricanes heading our way. You've heard about earthquakes taking place, volcanoes erupting. Then you see the man-made things that we do, a mass shooting at the Jacksonville landing. You hear about senseless killings. You hear about people being sold into slavery. You hear about children that are dying because of abuse. All this we see. And oftentimes, during these times in which we're reading the newspaper, we can ask, how does that connect with what God is saying? Father Nick, is Jesus coming back now? Is the second coming happening today? Are we ready for Christ to come back right now? And what I want you to know from the very beginning is that Jesus Christ is never quiet about his second coming. He never wants you to live in darkness about when he comes back again. Let me share with you some interesting studies that are found in the Bible. There are 300 Bible verses just in the New Testament that God says, I'm coming back. 23 of the 27 books in the New Testament say, I'm coming back. 206 of the 217 verses in the New Testament, Jesus says, I'm coming back. In our divine liturgy, we just gave our statement of faith. Do you remember you saying, and I believe that he will come again to judge the living and the dead? Jesus is coming back again. And this sermon series is not to scare you. They'll find a whole bunch of churches that will do that. We're just here to prepare you. We don't want you to get distracted with here. We want you to get ready for there. And is Jesus coming back now? Are these the last days? I don't know if they're the last days, but they're yours and mine last days. We now have fewer time on this planet, and we should live out our lives planning that Christ is going to come back in 100 years. We should have our church planning to do ministries and programs that impact people for the next 100 years. We should be, as parents, raising our children so that our children's children understand the teachings of Christ. But we should live like he's coming back right here, right now, today. I want you to open up your Bibles to page 37. We're going to be reading the Gospel of Matthew, and it's a powerful reading. And I just want you to kind of read it along with me. These are the yellow Bibles that we have in our pews. And it's just an extraordinary reading that Jesus does. Jesus is speaking to his disciples. And we think it's so important that when you read the Bible, and any of you, don't just read the Bible and open up and just start reading. You'll get lost sometimes that way. But it's so important that not only are you reading the content, but the context of why Christ is speaking what he's speaking at this moment. So he's heading towards his crucifixion. And he just wants to spend some time with his disciples, and he's saying, listen, I want you to be aware this is how it's going to happen. And this is so important for us to listen together. We're going to pick it up on we're actually going to start the last sentence on page 36. Listen to what it says. Chapter 24, verse 36. We're going to read a little bit now. Here it goes. No one knows, however, when that day and hour will come. Neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son. Only the Father knows. It's interesting, sometimes you can find churches and even traditions that will say that this is the time that God is going to come, and it's amazing that how that one sentence people tend to forget. No one knows. The coming of the Son of Man, though, will be like what happened in the time of Noah. And if you haven't read the story of Noah, many of you remember it from Sunday school. You need to read it again. This is what it says. In those days, before the flood, people just kind of went around and they ate and they drank. Men and women married up to the very day Noah went into the boat. Yet they did not realize what was happening. They never heard a message that said, don't be scared, but be prepared. Yet they did not realize what was happening until the flood came and swept them away. That is how it will be when the Son of Man comes again. At that time, and he's giving these examples now, 2 men are going to be out there working in a field. One will be taken away. The other will be left behind. 2 women will be at a meal, grinding meal. One will be taken away. The other will be left behind. And then I love these 2 words. Watch out. Watch out. Because you do not know what day your Lord is going to come. If an owner of a house knew the time when the thief was going to come, you could be sure that he would stay away and not let that thief break into his house. I love the comedic way that our Christ speaks to his people. Like if a thief was going to come, you think that the person wouldn't know? They're going to come when they least expect it. So then you must also and always be, this is our sermon series, ready. Because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you're not expecting him. And so you say, Father Nick, how do we then get ready? And we'll be dealing with this over the next 3 weeks, but let me just give you a few points that I want you to remember today. Number 1 is, I want you to be comforted that Christ is coming back. Sometimes when we as Christians hear about the second coming of Christ, there's a great deal of anguish that we have, and sadness that we have, and fear that we have, and to some extent we should have that. But can I just tell you something? Earth for us sometimes is awful. You know, as a parish priest, I will tell you that I'm at times at an event where I'm celebrating a wedding, and then hours later am burying a loved one. You know, clergy, you may not know this, and sometimes because clergy as priests, we're kind of told not to show it. But do you know who the 3rd leading cause of PTSD are? Post-traumatic stress disorder, after the first responders and after our military, is clergy. Because you can be in one happy event, and momentarily you could be at another event. You could be at the ER at one moment, baptizing a child the next moment. And for me, I will tell you this, I have been at so many scenes in my life where I see suffering, marriages broken apart by infidelity, cancer stricken people's lives, lifestyles that are unhealthy to the way God wants us to live. So let me just tell you something. Wouldn't it be nice if you never had to go to a cemetery again? Wouldn't it be great if you never saw a loved one suffering anymore? If you never saw the decay of the body because of cancer or illnesses? Wouldn't it be great if you never had to see a doctor again? Or you never saw someone shed another tear? Wouldn't it be nice if we never saw a senseless killing anymore? Wouldn't it be great if we never saw war again? Can I tell you something? Tragedy can't enter the kingdom of heaven. There is a no crying sign when you enter the kingdom of heaven. There's a no suffering sign when you enter the kingdom of heaven. All that has to happen when he comes again. I don't know about you, but I am looking forward to his second coming. I love in the Orthodox funeral service an amazing text that we use. It's from the book of Thessalonians, and for those of you that don't know, the very first book chronologically written in the New Testament is the book of Thessalonians. St. Paul writing to the people of Thessaloniki, he says this amazing statement. He says, And he's talking about this second day when God's going to come again. And he says, there will be a voice of command, and the Lord's voice will come down. And we will all be, and the words are, there's two words in English, one in Greek. We will all be caught up into the Lord. The Greek word is arpagizometha. It literally means, it's one Greek word, and it means literally not that I'm going to gradually just take you to me. I'm going to snatch you up. God wants to snatch you from this planet. And I know we're all going to be today about Duval, and I know that sounds very familiar to all of you. If you don't know, if you're not a Jaguar fan, you will hear that all day today. And we will win today, by the way, but you'll hear that. But Duval doesn't have anything on the kingdom of heaven. Jacksonville's great. God bless America, but it doesn't have anything on the kingdom of heaven. We need to be comforted. God, I just can't wait for you to come, because I don't want to see a cemetery ever again. I don't want to see suffering. I don't want to see depression. I don't want to see it again. Number 2, we're comforted, but there's also being prepared. And one of the things that I want y'all to do, look at me real quick, church family, that one of the things that moves the heart of God is when we be prepared by changing people's lives. Like, relationships matter. So my challenge to you is, when we talk about being prepared, is what are you doing to help make God's world a better place? Well, Father Nick, I'm just doing enough just to keep up with my family. It's not good enough. That's not being prepared. God never intended for you just to simply take care of your own family. It's great to do that, and we should. We should be a great example to them. But God says, I need you to bring all the people to me. I need you to know that people are the only thing that God speaks about, listen to this, in the kingdom of heaven. The only thing that God speaks about in the kingdom of heaven are you and me, people. So why don't we go about and do that? And I want to challenge you. I'm going to go a little bit off script a little bit, but I do that a lot. And every one of you should be on the Share the Light ministry in our community. Every one of us have 10 minutes to write a card to someone in our parish of the 50 families at least that are dealing with the sickness and who are unable to come to church every Sunday. Every one of you got 10 minutes to make a phone call and say, people matter. Let me make a phone call. Every one of us have an opportunity, if we've got a gift in doing prayer shawls, that we can do a prayer shawl to make a difference in someone's life who's dying at a hospital bed, to know that we are praying for them. Every one of us has an opportunity to be part of ministries of feeding the homeless at the City Rescue Mission once a month, or helping out children who are dealing with tremendous illnesses at the Ronald McDonald House. Every one of us should be on those lists, non-negotiable. That's how we're being prepared. Be comforted, but be prepared, because this is what he says. I want to know how you took care of my people. Number 3, I'm almost done. Be focused. Gosh, this world wants to distract us. You know, it's amazing how all of us, once we leave this church, and you just test yourself this morning, just remember this sermon tonight, how often you get distracted. How often you just get distracted with the world. And God is saying, I'm going to come like Noah's flood. You're out there having a good time. Today you might be cutting the grass between the quarters of the game or at halftime. Maybe you might be out shopping. I'm going to come when you least expect it. So how do you stay focused? You pray. I would challenge you this evening when you're at home is that, God, I just want to live for you. I just want to rededicate my life to you. I want to be focused because I don't know when you're coming, and I want to hear you tell me what you need me to be. Let me give it to you in a nutshell. When you go pray tonight, don't tell God about your earthly reality. He already knows that. Prayer is not you telling God about your earthly reality. It's just him telling you about his heavenly reality. It's him telling you about, let me tell you what it takes to be in the kingdom of heaven. Let me tell you what lifestyle it takes to live for the kingdom of heaven. Be focused in your prayer. I'll leave you with this. You know, I love counseling people. One of the things that I enjoy the most in my ministry, besides doing the liturgical worship and being with all of you, is counseling people during their difficulties and then kind of getting them, hopefully by God's grace, to a better place in their life. And I especially love couples that are getting married. And there's a lot of couples in our church getting married, so let me just kind of give a little shout out to them, because I love every one of them, and they're all coming into premarital classes with me, and it's just great. But when you as a priest are dealing with premarital counseling, you have different couples. You have the bride who's like to her fiance, don't even think about getting involved, just show up and show up on time at the wedding. And then you have at times, you could have even the bridezilla, who is like, Father, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do in the service, how long it needs to be. And then you get the bride and the groom, and they're all like collectively like wanting to tell how they want their weddings to be. And then sometimes the couple is not even planning the wedding. The parents are actually planning the wedding. And it's all good if it works in those particular couples. But I think back about my own wedding. And I think about like those of you that are planning your weddings, that you got so much to plan. You got the flowers, you got the cake, you got the dress, you got the venue, and hopefully you booked the church before you did all that stuff. And then you plan all this, morning, noon, and night, day after day, for months and months. And not to give you a spoiling alert, but for a few hours on a Saturday afternoon. But why do you plan all that? Because that wedding day is going to be a day that you're going to remember forever. Like it's a life-changing moment. Do you know what one of the 300 verses in the New Testament that Jesus speaks about the second coming? He calls it a new wedding day. And Jesus, just like your fiance, doesn't like when you're looking at other boys or other girls. He doesn't like it when you're dating other people while you're engaged. He doesn't like it when you're dating money, dating pride, dating selfishness, dating unforgiveness. God says, I want you for myself. And so I want to encourage you. Your wedding day is coming sooner than you think. Yes, let's plan for a whole 100 years in the future of how we want to raise our kids and our church programs and everything about that. But let's live like the wedding is today. By being comforted, no more sickness, no more suffering. By being prepared, people matter to God, and being focused. God, I just want to pray for you. Listen to me, church family. Don't be distracted with here. Get ready for there. I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to prepare you so that you and me can live happily ever after.
We invite you to join Father Nick and his wife, Dr. Roxanne Lowe, on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month for their Healthy Minds, Healthy Souls call-in show at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Ancient Faith Talk.